In a mock Iraqi city, the Alaskans are being drilled in urban warfare. At home in the cold and snow, the Eskimo scouts have to be completely retrained for combat in the hot desert. While Alaska soldiers are moving on to theaters of war, the rugged homeland they've defended since World War II still resembles a battlefield for those who risk their lives working here. Alaska's oceans are the worst killing grounds of the entire dangerous territory. Half of all Alaskans make a living from the sea, but they do so at their own extreme peril. Over the 1,600-mile-long Aleutian Island chain, a massive Arctic cold air mass collides with warm air moving up from the Pacific, producing some of the world's roughest seas and most powerful storms. One of the deadliest bodies of water on Earth, the Bering Sea has claimed 800 vessels and 200 lives in just the last 30 years alone. Coast Guard helicopter crews face the worst flying conditions in the country on rescue missions in the Bering Sea. The job holds the chilling distinction of being the Coast Guard's most dangerous flying assignment. Based on Kodiak Island, Air Station Kodiak patrols 30,000 miles of shoreline and 4 million square miles of territory, an area larger than the lower 48 states. On October 20, 2002, a Coast Guard helicopter responded to a Mayday call from 700 miles out at sea. This mission would become a life or death test of the Coast Guard's newest search and rescue configuration. A helicopter crew in the air working in tandem with a rescue swimmer in the water. The Galaxy, a 180-foot cod fishing and processing vessel, was engulfed in flames and drifting helplessly in 20-foot high seas and 40-knot winds. 4 crew members were already dead, but 5 men were still trapped on the burning boat.
Everything was on fire underneath, so they're basically standing on a frying pan. They're getting ready to cook, you know?
Pilot Melissa Rivera brought the H-60 Jayhawk helicopter into a low hover over the deck. The plan was to hoist the men up, but then plans changed. A massive explosion ripped through the ship.
It looked like a Roman candle. It just shot out of the top of the roof, and I was like, oh my god, aboard. And Melissa said, that's it. We're not going near that boat again. Jason, get your stuff on, you're going in the water. Okay, let's do it, you know?
Rescue swimmers were added to Kodiak air crews in 1988 to assist victims who could not be retrieved by the helicopter's hoist line. But the job puts yet another human life at risk in the extreme elements.
When you get out there, you are now in the survival situation. A rescue swimmer has to be able to last in heavy seas for up to 30 minutes. He has physically demanding, very physically demanding.
Jason Quinn risked being crushed by the steel hull as it rose and fell. Desperate to escape the flames, the men on deck jumped. In the past, when Coast Guard cutters would not arrive on scene for hours or days, the frigid water was a death sentence. Now, with the rescue swimmer, the seaman had at least a fighting chance. The swimmer grabbed the first victim and swam toward the rescue basket being lowered from the H-60. Every second counted. The 40-degree water would knock the man unconscious in mere minutes and could kill him in under half an hour. One by one, the rescue swimmer hauled the men to the basket. The air crew pulled them to safety. After an hour in the frigid sea, the intense physical exertion took a toll. Even with his insulated survival gear, Jason Quinn was hypothermic by the time he was hoisted back into the helicopter.
You're a popsicle. You're cold. I mean, I remember losing feeling my feet, my hands, being so cold. It hurt. Yeah. Come back, take a nice warm shower, do it again tomorrow.
Jason Quinn was awarded the Coast Guard's highest honor, the Distinguished Flying Cross, for saving 5 lives that without the rescue swimmer would have been doomed. Developing rescue tools to battle Alaska's lethal oceans has been the Coast Guard's mission for 140 years. After purchasing the territory in 1867, the United States sent the Revenue Cutter Service, the predecessor of the Coast Guard, to patrol Alaskan waters. Their job was to police the lucrative fur seal trade and rich fishing grounds, and to come to the aid of mariners in trouble. Fishing in these remote waters was extremely hazardous. In 1876 alone, 13 vessels and 53 men were lost in the Bering Sea. In September 1897, 8 whaling ships were trapped in pack ice off Point Barrow, Alaska. 265 crewmen were stranded with limited supplies. The Revenue Service cutter Bear sailed north to rescue them. The ship was stopped by thick sea ice off Nome, Alaska. As a last resort, the cutter put a rescue party ashore with dog teams, sled, and snowshoes. Trekking through the frigid Arctic winter, the cuttermen gathered reindeer and herded them 1,500 miles north to Point Barrow. Against all odds, the rescue party reached the stranded vessels in March, saving hundreds of starving men with the fresh reindeer meat. All but a few of the whalers survived their 9-month ordeal on the ice. For 80 years, the sturdy Coast Guard cutters and their fearless crews were the front line in the battle against Alaska's killer seas. Then, in 1947, the Coast Guard established Air Station Kodiak on Kodiak Island. The pioneer air crews flew amphibious planes designed to operate on the water during rescue operations. Seaplanes, like the Grumman Albatross, with speeds of 150 knots, could search vast distances of ocean much faster than the Coast Guard cutters, whose top speeds were only 15 knots. But conducting rescues during rough weather in the amphibious planes was extremely perilous. 25 Coast Guard men were killed over the years when their seaplanes crashed. In 1969, the helicopter took over as the primary Coast Guard aircraft in Alaska. Its ability to hover on scene revolutionized rescue operations at sea. This breakthrough came just in time. In the 1970s, worldwide demand for seafood took off. Alaska's oceans began generating an economic bonanza. With more vessels heading further out to sea in search of a big catch, Mayday calls to the Coast Guard skyrocketed. Air crews pushed the limits by taking their helicopters up no matter how bad the conditions, pulled off a string of daring rescues at sea.